waste your money on evolutions that will lose you games. 99% players regret making this exact same mistake. But if you don't want to make this mistake, then you need to know which evolutions are paid to lose. And currently, there are only 10 such evolutions. So, starting off the list of evolutions you should never buy, at number 10 we have the Bomber Evolution. The evolved Bomber has seen a variety of nerfs ever since it was released. Now, it's no longer as dominant as it used to be. Think about it. What was the special thing about the Bomber Evolution? It was how he could line up his shots on the towers from a distance. But when his range got nerfed, he fell off totally. Now, it feels very slow and never gets any shots on a tower. It'll only provide you with some value if your opponent is too slow to react. Nowadays, hardly any decks use the Bomber Evolution. You can maybe find him with some Goblin Drill decks, but that's really it. 2 Elixir cards are often considered as the best cards in the game, but the Bomber, he just fails to provide any impact on both offense and defense. For 2 Elixir only, you have much better options like the Berserker. The Bomber Evolution has a 1% horrible use rate and 46% win rate on ladder. Buying the Bomber Evolution will only set you back much further in Clash Royale, and you don't want that. Next at number 9, we have the Barbarians Evolution. Sure, the evolved Barbarians are receiving some love recently, but that's mainly because they're good against Vines. Once Vines gets nerfed, and you can be 100% sure that it will, the Barbarians Evolution will go back to being garbage. You will never see the Evo Barbarians in any decks other than Bridge Spam or Lava Loon. Even those decks are switching to better options. The problem with the Barbarians Evolution is that they cost 5 Elixir. That's a lot of Elixir for a card that's so easy to counter. Spells like Fireball and Poison wreck them for 1 less Elixir. Another issue is that they're really bad against cycle decks. If you're defending a Miner or a Hog Rider every time with Barbarians, you will always go into a negative Elixir trade. This can add up over time and make you lose the game. Both the regular version and evolved version of Barbarians are bad, which further makes this Evo a no-buy. And finally, they don't even synergize well with many archetypes, so if you're buying the Barbarians Evolution, you will most likely be restricted to using them in only 1 or 2 decks, and well, that's not good in the long run. At number 8, we have the Skeletons Evolution. This evolution really fell off the moment the skeleton count was reduced from 4 to 3. Now it hardly ever chains up on anything, thus no longer creating an infinite number of skeletons. That's really sad because I liked the card and it was always so satisfying to see Evo skeletons taking down your whole tower out of nowhere. Have you ever won a game like that? If yes, then hit that like and subscribe button. Currently, the 2 Evo skeletons are no different than the regular skeletons, really. While I do agree that skeletons are a part of almost every cycle deck, you're most likely never going to use them if your deck has other evolutions available. Evolved skeletons have no place in a meta where there are just so many small spells. They get wiped out before they can even start chaining up on anything. The Skeletons Evo has a bad 48% win rate on ladder. Only balloon cycle decks are currently using them, but I'm sure those decks will switch to other evolutions too in the future. By now, a lot of players already have the Skeletons Evolution, but if you don't have them yet, I would really advise you to not waste your money to buy them. At number 7, the next evolution you should never buy is the Lumberjack Evolution. This can be a really controversial take in my opinion, but the reason I'm putting the Lumberjack Evolution in this list is because he's really not that versatile and doesn't synergize with a lot of decks. Sure, if you play something like Golem, then the evolved Lumberjack is a must-buy for you, but in any other decks, he just doesn't fit well. Even in Lumberloon Freeze, he's only the 3rd best Evo after the Inferno Dragon and the Electro Dragon evolutions. And apart from these 2 decks, he's basically a dead card. Considering how rarely beatdown is in the meta, buying the Lumberjack Evolution doesn't seem like a good choice. There are many better mini-tank options than the Lumberjack, like Knight or Valkyrie. Currently, the Lumberjack Evolution is used a lot because Golem is dominant, but I'm sure that won't last long. Clash Royale has proved over the years that it doesn't really like metas where beatdown is dominant. It's not the worst evolution to buy by any means, but if you had to spend your money to buy only 1 evolution, then the Lumberjack Evolution might not be it. At number 6, we have the Dart Goblin Evolution. In one of the previous balance changes, Supercell nerfed the Dart Goblin heavily. The damage it did was reduced significantly, and ever since then, the Dart Goblin Evolution has really fallen off. The only deck you'll see him being used in is Logbait, but in my opinion, you're just much better off using the Goblin Barrel Evolution and a Mini Tank Evolution combo in bait decks. With spells like Log, Arrows, and Vines being extremely popular in the meta, the Dart Goblin finds itself in a really tough spot. Because of the damage nerf, it's much harder for him to take down tanks and other swarms. Currently, the Dart Goblin Evolution is one of the worst evolutions in the game, with only a 2% use rate and a 47% win rate on ladder. The normal version of the Dart Goblin is much better. Nowadays, players would rather prefer to have its normal version over its evolved version in Logbait decks, since you already have a lot of good evos like Goblin Barrel, Knight, Valkyrie, or Wall Breakers which you can use. Therefore, consider investing in these evos, since they are far more versatile and useful than the Dart Goblin Evolution. Before I reveal the top 5 evolutions, there's a key thing you need to remember. Buying these evos can be a mistake, but what's even worse is buying evos as soon as they come out. If you're not a heavy spender, then it's the worst mistake you can make. Supercell always releases overpowered new cards so that people can buy them early on, but then they nerf the evolution later on, so don't fall for this and wait for a while to see how the evolution performs after a couple of nerfs. Then you can make a decision whether to buy it or not. Next, at number 5, we have the Wizard Evolution. While a lot of mid-ladder players love the Wizard, the reality is that he's one of the worst cards you can have in your deck. For 5 elixir, you're getting a card that is horrible against cycle decks. His main role is on defense, but unfortunately he sucks against most win conditions. The Evolved Wizard's ability is quite useless. Oftentimes players will just log away the Evo Wizard's shield. Therefore, you don't even get the pushback from his ability very often. There isn't any point in using the Evolved Wizard when he's acting like a regular wizard mostly. His slow attack speed further makes him unreliable on defense. Right now, there is no particular deck that uses the Wizard Evolution. You can maybe find him in some Royal Giant decks, but that's really it. Both versions of the Wizard are terrible, and you shouldn't really be using them. There are a lot of better options like Musketeer, Executioner, or Baby Dragon, which are a lot more reliable, so try to unlock those evolutions first, and use them instead of the Evolved Wizard. At number 4, we have the Battle Ram Evolution. This is definitely one of the worst evos of all time. Right now, it's doing decent in the meta because of how dominant P.E.K.K.A. Bridge spam is, but the evo in itself is garbage. It never really connects to the tower, and the Barbarians that spawn are easy to counter as well. I personally prefer Ram Rider over the Battle Ram, as she is much more reliable on offense. The Evolved Battle Ram is just countered by way too many cards. Buildings counter it, reset cards like Electro Wizard or Ice Spirit basically destroy this evo, and popular spells like Log and Vines can totally render it useless. The Battle Ram Evolution is either decent or completely trash in the meta. I don't recall a meta in which it was ever really strong. It's used with P.E.K.K.A. and classic bridge spam decks only, but those decks mainly use it because they lack any other evos. The Evolved Battle Ram having only a 2% use rate on ladder, despite a good meta, tells you how trash this evo really is. Battle Ram Evolution is a very meta-dependent card, and spending money on such cards is never a good option. You need evos which are reliable and can survive tough metas. Next up at number 3, we have the Hunter Evolution. The card has lost all meaning now that Vines is introduced in the game. Vines does everything the Hunter Evo can do, but better. Unless you're a Royal Giant user, don't even think of getting an Evolved Hunter. The only reason why it even works with Royal Giant is because of the Fisherman. The Fisherman pulls troops close to the Hunter and he can destroy them easily. It can immobilize troops on offense too, but that's quite situational as well. Currently, the Hunter Evolution is one of the worst cards in Clash Royale. He has a 1% use rate and a 47% win rate, which is really terrible. He's being replaced in Royal Giant decks by the Furnace and Vines spell, both of which are much better choices. But even if the meta was favorable for the Hunter, he still wouldn't be used much outside Royal Giant decks. You know why? Because it has horrible synergy with almost every other deck. He shoots slow, is fragile, and is very matchup dependent. You have a lot of better options in other ranged cards like Archer Queen, Musketeer, or Executioner, so just save your money. And if you're not a Royal Giant user, don't buy the Hunter Evolution. At number 2, we have the Tesla Evolution. Expo users, you can go ahead and buy this if you want. Others, please don't. The only reason it's used in Expo is because of the 2x2 tile space, and no other building has that. But the rest of the decks have absolutely zero need for the Tesla Evolution. Ever since the removal of the second shockwave, the Tesla Evolution feels really weak. It's been overshadowed by other dominant buildings like Cannon Evolution and Goblin Hut. The evolved Tesla is decent, only in certain matchups like Lava Loon. Otherwise, in mostly every matchup, you'll prefer the Cannon Evolution instead. It's cheaper and much better at taking out tanks. Pros don't really like the Tesla Evo, and in the top 1000, it's only used in 3% of the decks and has a 48% win rate. So if you're not an Expo user, don't invest in buying a Tesla Evolution since it won't really benefit your deck much, and there are better options available. And as the number 1 evolution you should never buy in Clash Royale, we have the evolved Goblin Drill. This might be the only Evo where the normal version is much better than the evolved version. The evolved Goblin Drill is extremely predictable and is therefore very easy to counter. It definitely needs a buff, but it's not the only one that does. There are 15 other cards that need balance changes in Clash Royale. To find out about them, click on this video.